Y'all know I cover a lot of coke rap on the channel. This dude Skyzoo might have just upped the ante on us a little bit. Skyzoo's been an elite rapping for a minute. Every time he drops, it's one of the best albums of the year. His pen is as technically sound as they come. He has effortless wording, and the way he can paint not just physical scenes, but internal conflict as well makes him special. So to take his skill set, match with this concept, it might get crazy. So the concept is this coke rap album, but from the perspective of Franklin Saint from the show Snowfall. Not a bad promo for the upcoming season, by the way. No idea who this producer is, The Other Guys, but Skyzoo has a good ear for beats, so it's probably safe to assume that he/they don't suck. We finna get into it.
So if y'all ready, let me hear y'all say yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can't go wrong with the sax, dog. Sky normally sound good over this jazzier instrumentation.
Skipping over who you be and thinking you could flag it down but never knew the speed. You get this right, you could write your own eulogy. You pleading with her like you don't know what you do to me. Truthfully, unity.
I like this personification of opportunity in these opening bars.
But then she looked you up and down like you look new to me. Truthfully, I was born in that, but I was
He's still going with it.
Word to who my daddy was picturing me to be. Used to listen to him preach how Malcolm Little reformed, but I reversed course the longer daddy was gone.
This is tough. It's weird hearing Skyzoo's voice but hearing Franklin Saint's story. Even if you haven't seen Snowfall, you can picture this internal conflict of Pops wanting to be one thing and the opportunity not being there if he go on a straight path. And then Franklin's dad in the TV show was a Black Panther, so he had imagery to these Black Panther leaders who Franklin's dad wanted him to be. And then of course his pops left, so it's dope hearing all of that narrated within rap. That's tough.
My intentions was to get $1 million off my insomnia. The sweeter your dreams, the more you could wake up a monster.
I like that insomnia dreaming wordplay.
And the play it all depend on the blow like Contra. Well, left hand is beefing cause he see it like they hung him, and your right hand believing who you be, so the discussion is big. I further reach, so what could worry me? Nothing except everything. Medellin wedding rings, no divorce court in the world could ever sever things. Playing Here Come the Bride the way the metal sings.
When I said that he was gonna up the ante on the coke rap, this is it. He was using this marriage imagery to talk about how the coke gang on the street level was married to the war in wherever in South America and how the government was using drugs to fund the war. And then he wove that to talk about his relationship with two of his best friends, and then in the show, one of them he turned on, one of them still with him. And when he's talking about a dude who was still with him, he's talking about can't break it up and using the divorce imagery. That's tough. Also that metal scene line playing into the whole marriage divorce wordplay.
Just like up under the pot, one and the same. It sort of feels like Eminent Domain.
I'll be the black guy. Shit, I'm always the black guy.
That song kind of sick. I didn't know exactly how this concept was gonna flesh out, but if the rest of the album finna be like this, nigga might have did something. You could tell he put a lot of effort in that one song because he covered a lot of ground, but he wasn't just describing events that happened in the show. He was adding his own level of creativity to really flesh out what probably was going through Franklin Saint's mind as all these events occurred. Then to mix it in with these other themes that he had going on, he had that personification of opportunity at the beginning of the verse, the whole marriage, divorce, extended wordplay. The last line was pretty crazy too, talking about it feel like eminent domain. Eminent domain's it's actually a crazy law now that I think about it, but the government can pretty much take any property that they want. They just gotta pay you what they deem it's worth. So after describing how the government pushed coke on the Black community in order to fund their war, they weren't literally taking the hood or the streets away from people, but in the metaphorical sense they did. Production was dope. Skyzoo always gonna sound good over that jazzier production. I rock with that one. Let's get to Views from the Valley. If you seen Snowfall, you just gonna have to bear with us, but that cut scene at the end of the last song, he was talking to his white friend who lived in the valley, the rich part of LA.
My pops named me after Charlie Brown classmate, the only Negro at the table that I had a place.
I like that. Was that the only black dude on Charlie Brown? It definitely was, huh? That's funny.
Long way from all 56, but still proud of it. The wrong side of the tracks and the artifacts I'm colliding with. And I was
this sample is fire.
Code switch and hands dark enough to stick out and dig in the snow with. It's true as
this is fire. This bringing back parts of the TV show. This is gonna be a good recap for me. Cause I think Franklin, he went to a white school, I believe. Cause he was super smart. So now he's describing that code switching, being in an all white environment as a black guy from the hood hood, really. It's pretty sick.
All the shit I came for, promises of better views. The thought of staring down the eyes on all this revenue.
That's tough. He's talking about he's being in this good school in order to have all this stuff that he's viewing when he goes to these rich white people's houses.
Link between where I'm from to where I'm placed at. And pray over this blizzard, I'ma whip up on my way back. Where the angels look different on this side of the city. Yeah, views get in their way, but how could you blame them really, right?
The angels will play off the fact that Los Angeles means the city of angels or something like that.
Had enough, so don't miss. And off of this, the way I add it up, I won't miss. I know a brick without having been introduced to one. Just smaller versions of baggies, but I maneuver one. Siamese 2 for 1. You know what I can
That's
do with
tough,
one?
going from
This shit could
small
be
time
God's
to
head. Prove to my
bricks.
people how much God cares. God's here took me in at my old age. Co-career young enough to baptize. And my race car won't never flatline. Shit, I'm always the black guy. The burden of a blessing. Just me and Charlie Brown here, serving and collecting. Right, Rob?
That's sick. So really it seems like the direction this album is going is this is Snowfall, but if Snowfall had the internal dialogue, the whole Charlie Brown thing is fire because he said his pops named him after Franklin from Charlie Brown. And then he talked about how he was the only black guy in this area that he code switched to when he goes to school. And then how Franklin on Charlie Brown was the only black dude on the show. Then he's also talking about this conflict if he was sent to this white school in order to have more opportunity, but the opportunity that he actually got was the opportunity to get in the drug game. And I like on the third verse, we call back to the whole Charlie Brown thing from the first verse. A nigga's in his bag, then the technical rhyming is super on point, which is a lot harder to do when you're given this level of detail and storytelling. Love the vocal sample on this song. Let's get into Panthers and Powder.
Lucky where I never had to
The
look
horn
for
is
it.
fire.
It was like a lullaby before daddy took off. It threw me with my fists up in the air, same shade as little Sambo. Reach for my umbrella, I was raised to let a cannon blow.
It's a lot going on and it's easy to miss a subtle reference that he's making. He said he had his black fist in the air the same color as Little Sambo. I don't know exactly everything about Little Sambo, but that was that like children's book. It was called Little Black Sambo, and I'm pretty sure it was racist. It was made in like 22. So while he's talking about all this Black Panther imagery in the 60s, he's making a subtle little reference to racism that's dated back decades before. That's clever.
White man come for me, no I ain't the typical 10-point program, honor it like it's biblical.
I think he's rapping from the perspective of Franklin Saint's dad now.
And no
Franklin Saint's dad was the Black Panther in the show.
knew the code just like how we get to know a bird. The revolution wasn't televised, but it was spoken word, and I heard every part of it. Bravery and all the worry and the heart of it.
A spoken word, of course, is a double entendre, because spoken word poetry, and then it was said out loud.
All power to the people, cause your flag on the scale meant y'all power wasn't equal. Taught to take it back.
That's
shoot you down to
fire.
help
That
you reach
scale line, the power wasn't equal. That's fire.
Stories ain't alone, you be bound to get the sequel. Stand to know the risk, yet and still, the Lord's with you. Hannibal.
You bound to get the sequel. Everything's interrelated.
First Bill O'Neill's and Roy Mitchell's, I was privy to it. Me
And that's a powerful line because you know the Black Panthers had a complicated history. Started with Black empowerment, of course, and like every organization, they had internal issues, and all that was exacerbated by the fact they were targeted by the government.
I'm just blessed to say that we can
And then, of course, playing back into the TV show, Franklin Saint's dad had a drug problem
prove it.
and was a
Same
Black
pride as
Panther.
yesterday is here. Grew up off of strength. I come from pushing the cause. Built different now. I'd love to push you some raw. Built for
That's so sick. That's so sick. Pushing the cause, pushing the raw, Panthers and Powders.
for living through the death of my history. Reparations every time I get a key. My 40 in a
This
mule.
is sick.
When they load 40 in a mule for every member they took from us. Cordially
40 and a mule, like how black people are supposed to get 40 acres and a mule as reparations. And he said his only reparations when he stuffed a drug mule. Dog, that's so fire.
Panther in my blood. Shameful of my business, but the way business been going, shame ain't too expensive.
Nah, bro, that song is sick. That song would have been sick even if it wasn't within the context of Snowfall. He really threw us a curveball rapping from Franklin's dad perspective, and it was amazing. Those pure intentions turned into coke dealing. That second verse was really special in my opinion when he was contrasting his original intent to the coke dealing intent. The 40 acres and a mule punch, the push of calls now I'm pushing raw. The production was excellent. That song was phenomenal. This is straight drop.
Shit.
These vocals are
Straight.
tough.
Pieces of a kilo of
Hey,
stove tops when they hit the pot.
I love when rap samples rap, so using the drop by Farside. It's a Farside song, right? Amazing music video, by the way, but that's tough.
Split with you and yours, 2 5s, get a whole rock. Razors cut a cool.
Oh, he's talking about dropping coke in a pot.
It ain't dope, but it's dope. Like how dope locks everything up in you.
That's
Till
fire.
on your soul drops.
That's
Most
fire.
when they don't-
That dope wordplay.
You ain't seen heaven if you never seen a dime hit. Leaning over squares, bass hits, completed curtains. Ain't a Lenny or a Ray Ray that can interrupt a payday. A bag.
If you ain't seen Snowfall, them niggas was the ops. That's all you need to know.
Cut off your nose and try to save face. A bag will make you body your man without the melee.
So this is crazy how he's incorporating this wordplay. I can't remember if somebody got their nose cut off on Snowfall, but he said a bag will make you body your man, which that line just stands on its own. But in Snowfall, Lenny killed Ray Ray or vice versa. I can't remember which one was which.
Fine pay grade.
They made him do it, but it happened.
Circling around till we done dead. Pop whipping around till I'm numb. I call
That's
it straight.
fire.
My levels in the town.
It's a really well-written chorus.
I done made a crown out of dust. I call it straight.
I made a crown out of dust. Man, even the chorus got quotables. And the rest of the chorus is the imagery of coke in a pot, twirling around until it rocks up.
I'm trying to get this roster to move like Norm Nixon. Christmas time, I'm in the back of a warm kitchen. Mason jars everywhere. Home turn to visits. Locked in, knowing the key to this shit is rare.
Man, if you seen the show, you can picture this scene when Franklin first learned how to turn coke into crack.
Us being the only ones with it is all we care to be. Everyone in tune, but Louis the one who hit.
And then they were the first ones in the hood that had a recipe too. At
Could
first.
be a crown in her size, but ain't no heir to me. Heard to my own proud family who put their hand to me. Boomeranger with a vote beta where we handed keys.
So in this scene, he was with his auntie and his uncle when he learned how to make crack. That's why you getting all the family imagery.
Plug running through a funnel, how I be with mine. Pipe work, the Mario Luigi kind. Duck hunting, on the birds when the scene arise.
Pipe work, that's fine. I heard Mario pipe punches before, but that's tough.
So picture me comparing the look on a junkie face to the look on my mama face with her money late. And we mirror to mirror, snow cutaways. So excuse me for choosing to peek the other way. Try
The last lines he's talking about, he know he's messing up his community, but is that versus watching his mama struggle?
Bring it back around on the front and call it straight.
This is crazy.
Around till we done dead. Hey, how Wanda Bell say that shit? What she told Drew?
And what did she tell
Wanda
him?
Bell said, cause ain't them, they don't play. Right?
They don't play.
Believe that.
God dang, FX and Snowfall should promote this album. No, that's crazy. I like how the instrumentation got darker, because Dylan Coke is one thing, but when Franklin and them started introducing that crack to their community, that's when things really got distracted because it made everything way more accessible. You heard that conflict in the second verse when he was talking about he looks at the bass head, but he also think about his mama. The wordplay throughout is just so witty. It's really layered, the way that he could tell stories within stories. That's another phenomenal song. Instrumental was tough. Love those choir vocals. Plus that drop sample when he's talking about dropping it in the pot. The chorus was fire. That song is amazing. Let's get into 101.
And I know you said it's usually 16 hook, but I got more than that to say on this, so I could just flow with it.
You know, with the type of music I listen to, we don't really need all that chorus stuff.
Middle of 84 when opportunity hurt me. Said she had to sift through the crowd, but she preferred me. Dying for attention, but
He's going back to that personification of opportunity that he had on the very first song.
I just needed a lane I could play in accordance with. Wade in the water shit. God gonna trouble the waves
That's
when all
crazy.
the water hit. I just need enough for this pot that I can boil with.
That's crazy. The Wade in the Water, that's that hymnal that this Wade in the water. Well, come on now, don't make me pull out the vocals. But then this entendre for putting coke in a pot, wade in that water.
God save me an ounce or two. Whether we talking water or we talking what powder do. Blasphemy, right? But shit, I'm still asking you,
Low
right?
key.
We can even all of these odds from what Massa was like, for real.
Same sentiments that he had on Panther and Powder. Talk about this reparations was this coke that's allowing them to get wealthy. The irony is it's also destroying other black people.
Devils pull up in plain clothes.
Devils
Black
pull up in
dreams with
plain
these
clothes.
Anglos. It's best to act like you ain't know. Yeah. Avi told me be grateful. My
Shout
homie
out
told me
Avi.
to keep the gate.
Spoiler alert, and you better fast forward now. R.I.P. Avi.
Then took a car to see Avi and convince him that what I put in a jar can have me back here tomorrow, copping double. These pebbles became a gold mine under that rubble. And now I'm not the same kid coming here begging you for a couple grams.
That's
Reading up on
fire.
singles is hard to understand. Read
That's
get it.
fire. Oh, I love the chronology. He just learned how to make coke. He's steadily going from small time hustling to bigger and bigger.
But yo, if Lee doesn't get snatched, mugshot attached, then I wouldn't have been on their radar as a perhaps like Lee and then another. Shout to Mrs. Hamilton. Kev already was who he was. You couldn't manage him. My motto forever is the closer you stand together, the harder it be to see who you standing with. It's funny how.
Ooh. That's sick. He's in this part where he's reminiscing on all the things that he did to get to that point. He's talking about Lee got locked up, which I forgot. He killed Kev, and now he's kind of like justifying it, saying he was impossible to manage.
Being away, left Kev running free with cocaine leading away to his name, seeing the grave. Look at life. One cane could have stopped the other, and I fucked around and dropped my brother.
One Kane could have stopped another one, cocaine, and then there was a character named Kane.
Judas is never Judas on the surface. Same apply to Reed, but my deed on this purchase is a weekly occurrence off an invisible contract. My gun tucked and my arms back. I'm comfortable now.
I love that Kev versus Reed part. Kev really ain't turned on Franklin, so it feels like Cope that he's talking about how Kev was a Judas. Then he was willing to kill Kev, but he's working with Reed, who he know Reed will turn on him. But Reed's a plug, and he don't want to give up all the wealth and everything by turning on that relationship with Reed. This is sick. This should be canon with the show. This is tough.
The crown yours when they creating laws on you. And the diamonds embedded and it turning the thorns on you like 5 grams of rock, 500 grams of powder. The line in the sand and who's standing over hours, right? The tipping point is you copping for your
5 grams of rock, 500 grams of powder. Probably get more time than Coke.
college dreaming. I was beaming, trying to play good. But shit, I jumped off the steps because it paid good. Simple as that, cuz.
What about Mr. Right? What about him?
Oh, this is my scene right here.
Man, boy, your dad?
Yeah.
All the niggas you and your little motherfucking minions done plotted on between Tiana, Khadijah, Lenny, Carvel, him, her, bodies.
That scene's so fire. No, that song is tough, dog. I love how the instrumentation is getting darker as Franklin gets more and more sucked up in the drug game. I love this internal struggle as he's taking an inventory of all the relationships, good and bad. Well, mostly bad. But it felt like straight Coat when he was talking about the relationship with Kevin going sour. And in this part of the TV show, Franklin got more and more cold. But in real life, unless you a complete sociopath, for most of us to do something wrong, we have to already rationalize it in our head. And in the show, you can see Franklin get further and further along that certain darker path. But it's like this song is putting us right in his head. Dog, we only halfway into an album that came out halfway through January. This already sounded like an album of the year contender. Let's get into bodies. I love these keys.
Man, boy deserved it. Khadijah deserved it.
Man, boy did for real.
That car, that wasn't worth it. Andre deserved it. I mean, in the beginning, he didn't, but then he went and got all his pretend purpose.
Facts.
Rob didn't deserve it, but that was
Nah,
his
he
protection.
didn't.
I couldn't take the chance when I'm speaking on my connections.
That's already enough. That's tough, bro. I was talking about that coat, and now he's talking about all the bodies that he caught, justifying it. And this is like real justification, too. How many times did Skyzoo watch Snowfall? God dang.
Jerome said the shit that come along with this never be worth the payment. I said until a saint get
Facts.
involved and rewrite the amens. Ready, set, say when.
That until the Saint get involved and Cool.
Carvel was my rough draft, my first painting. Lenny was a stepping stone, but I couldn't step alone.
Carvel was his first body. That's
It
tough.
got bigger when Louis told me that Kevin's gone. Different, don't it? Yeah,
This album's
and
amazing,
that you
dog.
praying that death don't get the drop on you, but shit, he just doing what he gotta do, and it make you breathe different, don't it?
He doing what he got to do. Franklin's probably justified, so I just did what I had to do.
Shot wasn't planned to ever go to you, but you was switching up how you stand and what we know with you. Blood thicker than water till the money dripping over you, and then swimming in it takes control of you. Business is business.
Blood thicker than water till you swimming in money. Saying blood thicker than water, but it ain't thicker than money. That's tough.
Rightfully so, the wrong code took the life of your phone.
It's not true now, but that's tough.
I'm looking back like, when did you become blind? Where your vision at? Tried to lead you out of that storm, couldn't picture that. Wound up losing my arm despite the grip on that. Passing the blame is like,
God dang, this is really well put together. If you remember on either track 1 or 2, he described Kev. He didn't say Kev's name, but if you watch the show, you'd have understood. He described Kev as his right arm or left arm, one of the two. And now he's talking about he lost his arm.
greatest trick you never seen. Catch a body without a shot he found on me. Wide-eyed kid with pockets looking for company. And now I can payroll shooters to stand in front of me, but still keep the tuck on me. Judging the cover of this novel is gonna bookmark you under me. This right here, fresh from...
Judging the cover of the novel gonna bookmark you under me. Judging the book by a cover thinking because he got a baby face, he not a killer. You finna get bookmarked, so the book wordplay. Ugh.
Same boat like the one with all the barrels of coke. Same boat like the one from when they had us in ropes. And my
More of that slave and drug dealing contrast.
from us, the dreams they be selling never pay enough. But this right here, my career day started on dark benches and turned into Scully stretching bodies on park fences.
Hey Mar, this album crazy. I just don't understand how this album keeps getting better and better. If you put all these songs together, what he's accomplishing with this concept is crazy, but each individual song is insane. I've seen Snowfall, but I gotta imagine that even if you haven't, this is just a sick concept. All the internal struggle that he's going through, justifying each body. I loved in that first verse we was talking about the Carvel, that was the training wheels. Then Kev was the second body, and then from there it just got easier and easier. Then to the progression in the third verse where he no longer is killing, even though he's absolutely cold, way colder than when he was doing a lot of killings. But with that money, he got other people catching the bodies. Then that chorus when he's talking about when you catch all these bodies, you're now fearful for the rest of your life that you're gonna be the next one. And then speaking of, I love that personification of death where he was saying he did what he had to do as far as killing all the people he killed, and then death is just doing what he has to do, personifying death. More insane production. This album is insane. This is the balancing act.
Yeah.
Well, this is a change of pace.
Groove I can vibe to.
I was just about to say it's a grooviest beat.
To it, right?
For sure.
I pull up in mind like dedicated to who you know, and all that he knew with you. And loving memory, call us a living funeral. Cause yo, my learning quite like still turn smokers to the right type. Soda trim the fat, smoke a sack, coke diet right. How I caught a play.
Hey, I ain't even talking about Skyzoo's rapping too much just cause the concept was so crazy, but he is floating right now.
Oakland got the science right. Bricks got the duffel bags looking like they Iron Mike. Motherfucking duffel bags looking like Iron Mike. Duffel bags got muscles and shit. I mean, how am I not the Messiah, right? I mean, my
That
last
hurt
name
my
is
line
Saint.
tough.
My name Franklin Saint, baby. I mean, how am I? So when you speak, keep it all the way calm. Cause that be me that's telling Lee to put a hole in your thoughts. And yo, you think cause I refuse to scuff up my Adidas that I won't have everybody telling everybody bye.
This is sick. I can't remember what season it was, but you can tell when Franklin was getting more accustomed to that luxury life that his drug dealing was affording him, and he got a little cocky with it.
Dies. Go and help you get there
Well,
quicker. I can
the
pay
way
to
this
send you
sound a lot
sick and
cocky.
chop a brick there with him. The way the strip trampolining like how I said from the get-go. It looked like younger me hitting out a Melody window. Was younger. Remember me and Melody used to be at a job in the break room trying to make things happen. Man, I buy that motherfucking world on wheels now and kick everybody out of here, yo.
That's tough. Some of this stuff you just gotta see the show for. But he had this little girlfriend. He ended up popping her dad. I don't know how you didn't expect spoilers on this. But it's like if Franklin really had picked up a pen and a pad, it's just some of the stuff that he'd be rapping about right now at this point of the story.
I've draw. Been here before, won't be my last go. Come with a duffel open, leave with a body bag closed. Course of doing business, I see it's no problem at all. Delicate touch, to a key, I'm a Majamal.
Hey, talk your talk, Franklin.
Don't do it like Saint, I'ma keep it honest, man. It's the reason why I'm sitting on 70-something.
One of the things I think that makes the show really special is the progression of the characters. Franklin's progression in particular, seeing him go from really smart, humble, bright potential, kind of meek a little bit, to someone who's cold, confident, calculated. And then for Skyzoo to mimic that progression throughout this album, we saw him slowly dealing with the destruction that he's caused, and now he's on the other side of that where he's cocky, confident, arrogant, and it's like this song right here captures that mindset. I like the attention they're paying to these beats. When the album gets darker, it has a darker beat to match, and so this beat here just feels like luxury. Still has that 60s, 70s aesthetic with it. I said 60s, 70s. I didn't say it like 60s, 70s, 80s. I can't remember when Snowfall was. I think it was the 80s. Every time I say a year, just pretend it's the correct one. My bad. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get into brick by brick.
I built this shit. Me. Brick by brick.
Sunny LA, as bright as the coke I poured in the Pyrex. Back when I was building this building big as a project. So shout out to the project.
This beat really took a turn sonically, it looks like.
Least expected to walk up and squeeze a weapon. Mama blessing the plate, but all I seen was collections.
That's a sick line. Mama blessing the plate, but all I seen was collections. Like she praying for a food, but all he can see is her getting called by different collection agencies on these past due bills, and then that's a play and passing the collection plate around and getting money in church.
Everywhere, all I need is a check.
I said getting money. I mean like gathering money.
Well, you gotta be invited, Joe. Now you see why I spend every night alone. Cause yo, till every rock come from the Church of Saint, we in the street.
Apple in the collection plate bar.
Bring the beast out. Alton was talking that, bring the peace now. How the fuck I'm a peace out? I'm South Central's reroute.
Nah, F Alton, by the way.
And they speaking yet again.
Glad
So
they
I'm smart
murdered
enough
dude.
to never let you see me in the bins. Never bear me any love, let you be with us when the ship dock. No compare me to your plug if he re you up by the ziplock. No, if we talking brick by brick, you could be throwing keys or one of my buildings where I wrote your lease. Either or.
Dog, that's so fire. Yeah, obviously the brick by brick imagery to start the song. And now he's turned into an entendre, the brick by brick, a brick of cocaine by a brick of cocaine. And then the key to unlock the door. And then on the show, he actually had real estate too. All those are tying into each other. So I guess that's a triple entendre. That's just different, dog.
I could literally sit on my money and let it be. Counter from the basement is face to face with a mezzanine.
He's still going with his building wordplay.
Numbers, trap wall numbers, fat back into broads numbers, clap y'all numbers, and turn you all to a mirage.
Dog, this is really subtle, and Skyzoo's done this at multiple points throughout the album. He'll take a random scene in Snowfall that he's not particularly rapping about at this point in time and make a reference to it as if Franklin is actually rapping. Like, if you're rapping, you might make reference to something that happened years ago, like the fat back and two broads numbers where the two girls had stabbed fat back up in the show. Skyzoo's not rapping about that in particular. He's just using that to make a offhand punch. The details of this album have been insane.
Same sunny LA, plowing through all the snow involved. Never rain in SoCal, but I got all the snow to fall. Counting all this money while making this shit the smokers fall. Like you ain't have to
The
buy
snow
a
to
rock
cold,
to smoke
that's
at all.
tough.
But to pull up on your block and build a shop or open calls like who need work here? Double entendre, yo, who need work here? Hopefully, I could've retired after my
I wouldn't have catch it if he didn't say it twice. Like, who need work? Who need that drugs? Who need a plug?
What I got?
I got the plug.
I got the plug, nigga.
That's it.
You're right, you do. Yeah, but Mel ain't Wanda. What you saying? Is Wanda going to Spelman?
Shit is Mel.
You think we making all this money because this shit ain't addictive?
I forgot he said that, bro. That nigga barked on Franklin. Wanda was a crackhead, and then Mel ended up being hooked on drugs. Man, that song is tough again. Once again, I like the mentality and the psychology of this album. Whereas Franklin struggled with all the damage he was doing to the community, those first, call it 5-6 tracks. He's much colder, and he's showing very little remorse on these last two songs. Now we get in the perspective of a more established Franklin Saint, so it's more braggadocio, and then from a technical perspective, this whole brick double entendre where a lot of the lines played into him building a house, building up this empire, is building up a house, which is an obvious comparison to make, but the way that he did it, talking about Skyzoo, was so crafty. Sonically, the album's taking a change too, going from jazzy to darker. Now the instrumentals are more glittery. Tough beat for sure too. This is Apologies in Order. As I talk about beats getting glittery.
to my dearest next door, but a heart even prettier than your eyes, and the baggage that I done added to them in recent times. I'm a black tension, unfortunately, went from how you walk to how I could walk. It's caught a piece.
This is so sick because Skyzoo could have easily did this at the beginning of the album. He's rapping right now about Franklin, the relationship with Melody, the girl that he liked at the beginning of the TV show, but now he's rapping about it at the end of the album, and he's doing it from a different perspective. So even though he's rapping about stuff that happened at the beginning of Snowfall, he's rapping it from the perspective of being at season 5 or 6 of Snowfall. That's crazy.
Loving on a brick, replace loving how you look at me. Then I saw what it took from me. First one through the door should always have a key, but I had 20 more in the trunk.
First one through the door should have a key, a kilo, a key. That's sick.
And you lit up a flame and it became how you support me, serving you like a guest list. Word to your mama necklace. I swear the
Serving you
throne
like a
became
guest
warmer than I
list.
projected. Right? You reigned
And if you ain't seen the show, Melody ended up getting hooked on crack.
as sweet as your name. All the melodies that came alive drove you to lay me out to say goodbye. And so now essentially, that handful of bullets you sent to me was back to back with the ones that made you fall for a memory. Ironic, ain't it? He loaded his, he loaded yours, and you got it
Sick.
aiming. A cop's daughter ain't one to play with.
I don't know how I forgot that she actually shot him. That's crazy.
Let me vent. I don't do this much, but just let me vent. Waving high with all this blood on my hands. Let me rinse. Leaning on what's left of me to
It's crazy because he's describing what started as an innocent relationship getting less and less innocent, and the creativity in which he's doing it, waving at you with blood on my hands.
So apologies in order. If ain't nothing else for us, no love lost. So I lost love on the corner.
No love lost. He was talking about how he lost her to the crack game that he was the start of.
So I saw love was a goner. Apologies in order.
What more can I say? Y'all know the Jay-Z song? That's how I feel right now. I don't even know what else to tell y'all. This album is amazing. Like, this is not regular, dog. This is amazing. I already talked about, I love how he's rapping on this relationship that he's pretty much avoided for the entirety of this album. He's rapping from the perspective of season 5, Franklin Saint. So it's a level of clarity as he's talking about all these events, and he dedicated one whole song to one relationship that was pretty pivotal with Franklin over the course of the TV show. Once again, the way that Skyzoo was able to describe internal struggle is just amazing. He's done such a good job of getting to the head of Franklin Saint. I've had to consciously say Skyzoo as I'm breaking down this album. That's how immersed I am into this story. Let's close this thing out. I don't even want this thing to end. Let's close this thing out with Purity.
To my uncle who allowed me to take a big enough chance. Know my hands that give applause up to you at any given. Wool over my daddy eyes, you became the vision for the book of Saint. Auntie read
That's sick. That's sick.
Told her take a page to wipe her tears and get that book a break. She did me one better and wrote a page of her own and kept writing till her book was the same weight as my throne. Till it was Louis, you can have it. I'm gentleman enough to let you do what you imagine. I'm through with all this baggage, back already. Just keep everything pure. No steps to it like what I measured for y'all.
That's tough. He's talking about pure code, double entendre with pure intentions from his uncle, aunt, and then Reed. I think it was one more person. He's talking about his mom earlier in there too.
I said I'm Franklin. I own some properties all over town. And yo, I admire the way you giving your boys crowns. He said, man, I'm just doing my job, being encouraging. This is my son Sammy, and my little one is Ermias.
I don't think this actually happened in the TV show, did it? If it did, I don't remember this. So this is Skyzoo throwing his own spin on the story. This is tough.
I looked at them both like the city needs them. Fiends walking by that I knew from my grand opening. Feelings came over me, I pray don't never come over them. My snowman knock on that door fresh off the highway. Duffel bags for me and mine, and you know how I play. Took advantage of it through all of its disadvantages. Saints over everything till the prayers from the family get shown for what they were. Down on
I like the snowman wordplay, now I like the Saint wordplay.
to my mama with her heart on her sleeve. She did her best, but 73 Miller turned all this shit into death, and I digress. My comeback was my calling card. Be sure to tell everyone in this bitch au revoir. Man, I'm out of here, man. Fuck all this.
Oh, I don't know if you can end the album any better than that. With the way that Snowfall's last season ended, with his auntie pretty much snaking him. I love how he went through that relationship with his aunt and then his uncle. If I had to be nitpicky, it would have been cool to see a little bit more like animosity, because, you know, this nigga's mad right now as far as in the TV show. But director Skyzoo went with a more mature, analytical approach to it, and I think the way that he portrayed that conflict was still really, really good. That second verse was pretty crazy. I don't think that happened in the actual TV show. That was something that Skyzoo just made up, something that could have actually happened with Franklin. That's dope. That scene that he created alone just sums up all the internal conflict that Franklin went through building this drug empire and then seeing the effects that it had on his community. Love how he concluded everything on that third verse, and I really like how it went a cappella when he's talking about his mom on a song called Purity, in a show where pretty much everyone to some extent is kind of turned on Franklin. You know, some of it is slight like Leon or Jerome, but his mom is really the only person who's had pure intentions from start to finish. So to end the verse with that, and then I like him throwing the equipment down, like is he just getting too wrapped up in his emotional that he's just leaving, and that's kind of how the season ended too. That's how you put a project together. And overall, I don't know what to tell you, man. We got an extremely strong album of the year front runner. I'm only one listen in, but it's gonna take something extremely special to knock this off the #1 spot. There's a tiny, small chance that I go back and play this a couple more times and I kind of back up off my opinion that this is probably a classic. I just don't think I'm gonna feel that way with how technically sound all the rapping was from Skyzoo, that I didn't even really get to dive in that much because the contents were so heavy and so dense. I think with each listen, I'm probably gonna feel even stronger about the album. Cause dog, this thing was special for him to take this TV show and add to it. It wasn't him just describing what happened in the show. He was adding additional content by going through all these internal struggles that Franklin Saint had. One, just the creativity of all these internal conflicts that we didn't explicitly get with the show. Two, having the rap ability, the technical skill, the creativity to articulate that in a really captivating way. His wordplay that went on as he rapped. Rap-wise, we got that same elite Skyzoo from start to finish, but adding the fact that he perfectly executed executed this concept. It doesn't hurt at all that the production was extremely good on this album. I love those jazzy beats on the first, call it 5 or 6 songs. I like how those jazzy beats got darker and darker, and then when Franklin's character kind of turned into this drug lord, this mob boss who has everything, I like how the beats got more luxurious. The album had no weak points. I think the one thing that I'll be curious to hear you guys' opinion too is I want to know what this album is like for someone who hasn't watched Snowfall. I think it's descriptive enough and vivid enough that it's still an extremely good, probably classic album even if you haven't. But obviously I can't listen to that album from that perspective. But dog, you're not supposed to start the year like this. This album's amazing.